Franz Wagner showed that he could do a little bit of everything out on the wing for Michigan. So is he being underrated ahead of the 2021 NBA draft? This is Floor and Ceiling. Let's break him down. Franz Wagner went from playing professional basketball in Germany to following in his brother's footsteps at the University of Michigan. Wagner had a standout sophomore season in Ann Arbor, posting productive numbers and showing intriguing flashes in just about every facet of play. At 6'9", 220 pounds, the German youngster might be the type of do-it-all wing that the NBA dreams of nowadays. So come draft time, the question is, how high can Wagner go? On offense, let's begin with what Wagner's swing skill is, his three-point shooting. I'm starting with this because I think that Wagner's ultimate upside at the NBA level hinges a lot on his outside shooting. Wagner's skill set is maximized if the three-point shot is going in, but that's not to say he would not be a good player without it. Wagner made 34% of his threes during his sophomore season in just over 100 attempts, but to be honest, I don't feel discouraged. I think that Wagner's shooting is largely projectable, and as you can see here, his mechanics are pretty standard and his makes are all clean. Additionally, his free throw percentages of over 80% during both of his years at Michigan give me even more hope in this regard. As his sophomore season went on, I felt like Wagner grew increasingly confident from beyond the arc. He started taking more threes, and although the last image of him in a Wolverines uniform might be a disappointing NCAA tournament run, the numbers from deep were better. Those two games aside, Wagner shot over 41% from three in his last 12 games for Michigan. He was taking triples from beyond NBA range, out of step backs, and with defenders right in his face. In particular, Wagner's game against Michigan State stood out to me. In an important game for the Wolverines, Wagner played fearlessly and made his state rivals pay. Michigan State seemingly wanted to play the percentages, so they went under on screens when Wagner had the ball. Instead of shying away from pressure, he was confident pulling up from deep and swishing some huge trays. On top of that, I think that Wagner showed enough at Michigan to make me believe that there is some versatility to his shot profile. We saw the spot-up threes first, and then the variety of pull-up shots he can sometimes make. It's not like this happened every game, but when Wagner ran the floor and filled the lane, his teammates had no problem dishing out the ball to him in the open court. He could stop on a dime, set his feet, and let it fly. The problem is that Wagner is still pretty inconsistent as a perimeter shooter. The flashes are there, but the consistency is not. I remain optimistic on this front, and like I said earlier, the free throw numbers back me up on that. However, Wagner still is not really a pull-up shooter from deep, and he is not reliable as a spot-up or catch-and-shoot threat either. Wagner made 31% of his threes as a freshman and then 34% as a sophomore. Those are below average numbers for a wing. I don't expect him to be a 40% three-point shooter, nor does he necessarily need to be, but the goal should be to get Wagner to at least league average. In my opinion, he still needs to make his release faster and more fluid. Right now, Wagner still needs quite a bit of time to prep into his shot before pulling up. Another problem that Wagner encounters is that he can sometimes be a little hesitant from three. This is easily fixable, but there were times where he could have been more confident just getting into his shot and not being so worried about making the right play. Watch here as Wagner could get into the pull-up but chooses not to. Or here against Northwestern, Wagner eventually makes the extra pass to get Michigan the three, but I feel like he could have gotten it himself initially. If Wagner's three-pointer develops according to plan, that will help bolster one of his pre-existing strong points, his cutting. Wagner is really smart off the ball. He knows how and when to pick his spots in order to dismantle a set defense. Wagner got lots of joy cutting this year to get himself and Michigan easy points. He is a forceful cutter who moves with intention and intelligence. When opposing defenses were focused on Michigan's other playmakers, that gave Wagner enough time and space to reap the fruits of a decisive cut. Watch here as he moves without the ball and gets the 2 points at the rim. Or against Wisconsin, Wagner spots the baseline cut and finishes with the reverse layup. Because of how Wagner looks, it is easy to dismiss him at first glance as a subpar athlete, but I think the truth is far from that. Wagner is not an incredible specimen with elite explosion, but he has a very solid first step and an understanding of how to get to his spots. He will not jet past his defender like a Jalen Suggs or a Keon Johnson might, but he will absolutely find his way to the rim. Wagner made a highly efficient 71% of his shots at the rim this year. Out of those makes, just 40% were assisted, showing that Wagner has plenty of driving ability in his game. Although the German wing is still primarily a right-handed finisher, Wagner is impressive slashing to the basket regardless. Like I said, his first step is decent enough to start the drive, and then Wagner uses his reliable handle and long strides to good effect to get all the way to the basket. For me, this is the most underrated part of his game. As he gets stronger, Wagner's efficiency should hopefully improve even more. Adding that strength will definitely be important for Wagner. Despite making around 71% of his shots at the rim, I thought Wagner struggled the most when he was either trying to finish in traffic or through contact. Wagner reportedly comes in at 220 pounds, but at first glance, it seems clear to me that his frame can still fill out more. Once that happens, it will help him take blows, absorb contact, and power through defenders. Watch here as Wagner attacks off the catch but gets pushed around into an impossible angle to finish from at the end. Or here, Wagner is met by a smaller defender at the rim, but he is unable to overwhelm him with power and misses. To be clear, this is not a huge problem or necessarily a negative, but if Wagner was just that little bit quicker or bouncier, that would improve his upside even more. Still, I like that Wagner is not one to shy away from contact. He plays with great toughness, seemingly both physically and mentally. Even though he still has to get stronger, that does not deter Wagner from bumping with defenders or getting into their bodies, even if he is not always able to finish. Watch these clips in the post here, where Wagner continues to show his potential as a highly versatile and mismatchy scorer. In addition to his 13 points a night, Wagner also added plenty of playmaking to the Wolverines. Wagner, quote-unquote, only averaged 3 assists per game in Michigan, but I think that his upside as a passer is worth pointing out, particularly for a win. Part of the reason why I think this is so important already is because of Wagner's still developing shot. When he is not scoring from deep on a consistent basis, he has to bring something else to the table. Wagner makes smart reads a lot of the time, and very importantly, he is not sloppy at all. In his sophomore season, Wagner posted 84 assists to his 36 turnovers. Watch here against Northwestern as he slips the screen, attacks right, and hits Isaiah Livers in the corner with the impressive pass. Or in the same game, even something as this entry pass in a very tight window shows that Wagner understands how and where to pass the ball. Wagner was also given the chance to run some pick and roll at times. Generally, I liked what I saw. It goes back to his main qualities as a passer, but applied to operating out of ball screens. Wagner is capable of spotting passes over opposing defenses or delivering passes through tight spaces. He times his dishes to the roller well and does not get rushed or bothered. I genuinely believe that there is even more potential to be tapped into here. Watch as Wagner hits the roller over the top of the D here, or in this clip, he comes off the screen and then switches hands to hit the cutting Livers. Finally, I want to point out how Wagner does in transition to truly drive home the point that he can be a versatile offensive hub. Wagner can either lead the break on his own and find his teammates, or he can take things into his own hands. Here, Wagner pushes in the open court and finds the open corner 3. Or here, Wagner gets the ball in the opponent's half, slows down a little bit, and hits the big with the picture-perfect pocket pass. Then, when he has to do things himself, Wagner is deceivingly shifty and crafty. He can break out little side steps or Euro steps in transition to create space for himself and finish relatively unbothered. Watch this impressive move here as Wagner completely fools the opponent. Wagner is also a phenomenal prospect on the defensive end of the floor. Just like on offense, Wagner excels at the off-ball part of playing D. He is an absolute playmaker who makes things happen on this side of the basketball, having an uncanny knack for rotating at the right time and coming up with big moments for his team. Wagner is already an advanced defender off the ball at just 19 years of age. He is disciplined, always engaged, and knows how to leverage his intelligence into being a constant disruptor. Wagner can be counted on to make the correct rotations, such as here where he comes up with the huge block. Part of Wagner's already excellent defense comes in that he knows how to use his length. Watch these clips in the pick and roll as Wagner first gets over the screen to poke the ball away, and then in the next clip plays the balancing act between the ball handler and roller perfectly. In the end, he stretches out his long arms and comes up with the steal. Beyond that, Wagner is a constant threat to get blocks, steals, or deflections. He definitely knows when to interject himself into a play at the right time. In his sophomore season, Wagner averaged about a steal and a half per game along with 1 block. That is how one leverages their length to help out their team. Watch here as Wagner single-handedly stops a possible fast break. Or here, Wagner jumps the passing lane at the right time against Wisconsin, gets the steal, and jets away for the easy dunk. Finally, versus Minnesota, Wagner is just so quick to react to the wing 3. He sprints into the closeout and is able to block the shot. On the ball, Wagner has also displayed some impressive defensive chops. He is mobile and coordinated enough to keep up with drives, sometimes on players smaller than him. Down the line, I see Wagner fitting in as a multi-positional defender. Once he fills out, he should be able to defend guards and forwards with his impressive blend of fluidity and size. During his time in Michigan, Wagner showed that he can defend players smaller than him. Wagner is able to get low to the ground for his size, stay in front without fouling, and move his hips. This block here shows as much, with Wagner completely deterring the drive and getting the demoralizing rejection. Or watch here as Wagner stays in front of the drive again and then completely rejects the pull-up 3 attempt. Lastly, against Michigan State, Wagner keeps up with the smaller Joshua Langford and forces the air ball. In terms of improvement areas, the biggest one once again is the strength. Here, Wagner keeps up with the drive but gets dislodged on the bump and is not in place to contest the rebound. Or here, he is in the right place to contest the shot, but he gets buried under the rim and cannot make a difference. The same thing happens here, with Wagner making the correct rotation but being unable to take the bump into his chest. Obviously, this can also be an issue in the post, with Wagner just getting flat out moved out of the way in this clip. Finally, something else that stands out as a limitation for Wagner goes back to his solid but not elite athleticism. There are times where Wagner is simply matched up against an opponent that is quicker than him. His foot speed is generally okay, but I do not think that he should be regarded as someone who will be able to constantly defend or check point guards in particular. As I've been saying, he has plenty of other great things to fall back on, namely his ability to make an impact as a defender away from the ball, and his real, but still somewhat limited to a certain degree, multi-positional versatility. Like I said in the video, I think that Franz Wagner is the type of do-it-all wing that NBA teams now covet more than ever. And in my opinion, he belongs firmly in the top 10 conversation. For me personally, I will probably have him even higher than that, probably around the top 7 or 8, because I am a true believer in all of his abilities. Of course, Wagner does need to improve his 3-point shot. Right now, the percentages at best are below average, and like I broke down, he can sometimes be a little bit too hesitant, and he is not reliable enough to space the floor on a consistent basis yet. However, given his mechanics, given his free throw numbers, given the types of shots that he showed off, I do think that he will be able to get there in time. More importantly, I think that Wagner can bring a lot of other things to an NBA floor immediately, such as his cutting, his passing, which I still think that he has even more to show off of, and of course, his defense, both off the ball and on the ball. I think that Wagner right now is shaping up to be one of the best defenders in his draft class. Particularly, like I said in the video, he is a tremendous off-ball defender, with great instincts of knowing when to be and where, and of course, he can come up with steals, with deflections, with blocks, and he knows how to use his length really well. Now, I don't think that he will be able to check point guards on a regular basis, but still he should be able to guard at least 2 through 4 in the NBA, and in my opinion, with a wing that can shoot the 3, that can pass, that can cut, that can defend both on and off the ball, that right there is worth a top pick. As always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, make sure to leave a comment, tell me what you think of Franz Wagner, and if you enjoyed the video, if you enjoyed the channel, make sure to subscribe. Take care, and I'll see you guys next time.